let's take a look at this. One of the things that we had a problem with Barack Obama in, and this has come up in the context of his dismantling the Obama for America, it was indicative of it, and it is consistent with what David Dayen was talking about in terms of Bernie's campaign leveraging the assets they have, their email lists, the attention that they get for running for president, and using that for projects that are not necessarily beneficial to the, at least short term, maybe not even in the midterm, to a presidential campaign. And that is exercising power and pressure. Here is Bernie Sanders on Rachel Maddow's program last night, talking about what he's going to do to deal with Mitch McConnell. And, look, this is a very obvious question in some respects, but nobody has given a satisfying answer to this. And this is when we talk about what Bernie Sanders brings to the presidency that other candidates don't or haven't articulated. I think this is really what it comes down to, because I think you have someone like Elizabeth Warren, who I think has obviously put in a lot of work to developing plans and has a notion of what she wants to do, and these plans are good. But someone like Mitch McConnell is going to be a roadblock to this. And the question is how do you make Mitch McConnell scared? Here's Bernie Sanders on Rachel Maddow.
If he is still there,
yes,
what would you put on his plate first? What would be your first legislative priority?
I'll tell you, before I put anything on his plate, I would be in the state of Kentucky holding a rally with tens of thousands of people to say to what is in fact one of the poorest states in this country, a real struggling state in Kentucky, that we need to raise the minimum wage, a state which is really suffering for lack of health care. We're going to rally the American people in Kentucky. We're going to rally the American people in Mississippi. We're going to rally the people in South Carolina to demand that their representatives, I know this is a radical idea, actually do what the American people want. The point that I make over and over again, Rachel, is the ideas that I talk about are ideas that the American people want. They don't get it because you got a Congress indebted to wealthy campaign contributors. And by the way, whether you call it...
That's excellent.
Yeah, I mean, the point being, and this dynamic came up during the fight for the Affordable Care Act, for the public option, and folks in the Democratic Party wanted Barack Obama to go to Joe Lieberman's state and to put pressure on Joe Lieberman, and he would not do it. And there has been like an allergy on the part of largely Democratic electeds, and to a certain extent those who are just trying to run for election, to use the almost like the bully pulpit and to use and the idea of rallying and organizing and mobilizing people to play an outside-inside game is really what it comes down to. And it's almost inexplicable as to why that's been the case, because at the end of the day, for the Democratic Party to be effective, it's the only way it can be. And we have had this problem since the union movement basically fell apart. Or union density just dropped dramatically over the past 30, 40 years by, 25 percentage points. We've lost the outside game.
Well, that's the Stephanie Mudge research. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, the outside game is gone. And the only way it comes back is if organizations that are forming on their own on the outside are empowered by those on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's good that Bernie's talking about that. I mean, because it really is the missing element of all of this. And just as Sean McKelvey was telling us about Jerry Nadler, you put a primary against Jerry Nadler, not because he's a bad Democrat, but because there's things on the table that he could be doing for his district that he's not doing for his district. And by primarying Jerry Nadler, what you're really doing in some ways is empowering him, because you are forcing him to use, or at the very least, you are the catalyst for him to use his power within the caucus, because he can go to Nancy Pelosi and legitimately say, hey, I need this as much as you think that person in the marginal, that frontline Democrat needs it. I need this, because if I don't get it, I'm in trouble, and I'm not going down to save that purple district congressperson's seat. And that's the dynamic that we have to get into. Here is later in that interview, Rachel Maddow has Bernie Sanders on, and discussing the dynamic. We have the worst wealth inequality and income inequality that we've had in almost 100 years. And so here is Bernie describing why that dynamic has occurred.
There is a reason why in the last 30 years, the top 1% have seen an increase in their wealth of $21 trillion, while wealth has gone down for the bottom half. Why 500,000 people are sleeping out on the street. Why we are the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people, or parental leave, or sick and medical leave. There is a reason. And the reason is, and what this campaign is about, is finally saying that if you want real change, we need a political revolution. And what does that mean? It means we are going to have to take on Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex. In other words, we can talk about all the great things we want to do, but at the end of the day, to understand why we are where we are, where the middle class is shrinking, where 40 million people are living in poverty, we have to understand the political reality of America and the power structure of America. We are prepared to take those guys on, and that's why I say unapologetically, I am not afraid of those people. They want to condemn me. The billionaires want to condemn me, that I'm an existential threat to the Democratic Party. So be it. We're going to take them on.
Yes.
I mean, that's spot on. I don't know what he's left on the table there. Nothing,
well,
I would say.
Always name our enemies.
Say really quick, well, and of course that's that brilliant new move of the anti-endorsement page that they have on the Sanders website now, with all of the most dangerous people in the country, like Haim Sabin, who we were talking about yesterday, and Ken Langone, and all these other oligarchic predators, saying that they hate him, basically. And of course, that's the ultimate endorsement. I just want to say really briefly, I know the next guest is there, but the fact that he keeps naming the military-industrial complex is another big distinction that stands out in terms of how he's framing it. And the Obama comparison is so revealing, because you need this sort of outside agitation even for doing, Heritage Foundation healthcare policies. So you might as well go for actual serious reform.
Yep. All right.